Xin chào, hello, welcome to Train Street. We're in the middle of Hanoi, Vietnam, and for the next few months, the Couple of Pints podcast is going to be doing things a little bit differently. I will explain all shortly, but for now, all I ask is you subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So then, George, cheers.
Cheers, Nick. Cheers.
So, this is episode number 5, I think, of the pod itself, or I think it is number 5. We've had 4 so far, 1 in Qatar, 3 in the UK, but this one obviously from 6,500 miles away from the UK, and obviously I think the first 10 minutes of this we're just going to give some background context as to why we're currently sat in Hanoi, Vietnam.
Yeah, kind of just saying this is what we're doing now. We did our first podcast in Qatar. We've done the next 3 of them kind of with some guests in the UK.
Yeah.
And obviously this is going to be the kind of the podcast format going forward for the next 5 months or so, in doing a podcast in every week, new podcast in a new city.
Yeah, so me and George have decided that we're going to go travelling around the world. We've both quit our jobs, and George was always going, and I've sort of gone, why not? Let's go and see the world. So it takes us on a bit of a mad journey around Southeast Asia, and then over to Australia, and then on to America. George, where are we going?
Yeah, so obviously it's 5 months in total, or just less than. Starting in flying over to Hanoi in Vietnam, which is obviously where we're currently at, and then we'll do 5 days there, which we've just about to complete. Then we're flying to Japan this evening.
Flying to Tokyo.
Yeah, so we got a few days in Tokyo, and then from there we're off to Thailand, and then Thailand for 2 weeks, going to a few different areas in Thailand. Go to Bangkok for a bit, go to Koh Phi Phi, and then go to Koh Phanang as well for the Full Moon Festival in Koh Phanang. So hopefully I have some good stories from that. It's one of the best parties in the world. So I have some good stories from that. And then from there we are then flying to Manila in the Philippines. However, then obviously we go straight from Manila over to El Nido in the Philippines. We've got a week in El Nido. And then from El Nido, we'll fly back to Manila as we fly down from Manila to Australia. Yeah,
and in Australia, we're obviously going to go to Sydney.
So that's
where we're flying to Sydney. We're going up towards the Gold Coast and Brisbane, and then we're heading down to Melbourne. And then from Melbourne, we do the 10-hour flight across the Pacific into Hawaii and the United States of America, which is where we're going to spend 3.5 months, I think.
I think it's just less than 3 months.
Okay. So just under 3 months in America and Canada. So there's going to be some interesting stories on the trip. Anywhere sort of in particular that you're looking forward to the most? We've done Hanoi now, but I
would say I think Japan's going to be very different from everything. I'm very looking. That's one of those places that I'm thinking like Japan is just like totally going to be different. I'm looking forward to that, just seeing what it's like, and definitely looking forward to that. I think Thailand, I'm looking forward to kind of the more of the going out, having a good time, enjoying ourselves. Obviously good weather, but then just going out, having a few drinks. Well, I say a few drinks.
I think
quite a few drinks.
Just being able to chill out as well in Thailand will be. I mean, one thing that sort of Hanoi is a very busy place, whereas you sort of go to Thailand, you're allowed to sort of relax a little bit more. I think that's my preconception, and like you say, I think Tokyo is going to be mad. I mean, Australia is one that I always said that I wasn't ever going to go to Australia unless it was for an Ashes tour with England cricket team. The reason for that is because I can't stand snakes and I can't stand spiders. So for me, I think that's going to be an interesting
Australia, to be fair, Australia's always been on my list. It's a bucket list I always wanted to go. I've heard so much about it. So many people have told me how good it is. It's just obviously it's very far away. So if you're going on holiday, like a 2-week trip kind of thing, to fly 24 hours there and 24 hours back for a 2-week holiday is just a big commitment. So it's now the case of we're in Asia already. We want to go to America. We can go to Australia kind of in the middle. So it just works well that I can go and enjoy Australia. And I know for a fact from what people have told me. I'll go and do this couple of weeks in Australia. As kind of in the middle of this travelling, and then I just want to be going back. And I've just said how long it is to go over there for 2 weeks, but I have a feeling post this I will be going back, because already I'm expecting good things.
Yeah, I think Australia's going to be good. I think it's going to be mega. For any geography fans out there, obviously our trip starts in Hanoi, Vietnam, which if you do look at a map is right next door to Thailand. We're flying out to Tokyo, which is the other direction, this evening. So George booked a lot of the trip up before I was coming. That's why. So explain that, George. why are we going the wrong way? Did you do geography at school?
No.
And
So
how is that
obviously,
happening?
I know how it works, and I know obviously it would be cheaper now to fly from Hanoi straight to Thailand. But obviously the whole trip was planned to be looking at moving from. Starting in the UK, moving from the UK over to Asia, doing a few weeks in Asia. I picked out a few different places in Asia I wanted to go to, and then moving from there over to Australia. And obviously I wanted to work out to be in different places at different times. So the only problem is, we're starting in Hanoi, and then from there, yes, easiest to get to Thailand. However, I wanted to be in Thailand for the Full Moon Festival, which obviously happens at a certain date. It happens at the start of the month when the full moon is on. So if we gone straight from here to Thailand, we would have missed that.
Yeah.
So I had to fit in Japan somewhere because I wanted to do it. So just fit in that gap there. Obviously we had a start date we needed to start from.
Yeah.
And then obviously wanted to be in Thailand for a certain date. So yes, although technically a few extra air miles in total, it works for kind of dates and planning and such.
Yeah, I'm glad you've got that excuse out, because I've heard that about 15 times already this week when I've decided to question his geography knowledge. Well, at least there is a reason. Yeah, so we're very much looking forward to it. We're going to take you along the way with us all the way through this trip. We're going to see some fantastic places. There's absolutely no doubts we're going to have some incredible stories on the way. So stick with us, and yeah, this is going to be worth the trip, believe me. So we've been joined by Sam here in Hanoi. Sam, you are mates with George.
Yes, I am, yes.
How do you know George?
Known him since primary school, so it's been fair, I think, nearly 22 years.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Wow, that's a stretch.
21 years, yeah. So, been known each other ever since, went to the same schools after that, and now here going travelling with him, seeing the world. But yeah, been awesome.
So you're with us for the next couple of weeks, aren't you? You're with us in Hanoi. You've joined us in. You're going to join us in Tokyo, and then you're going to join us up until Bangkok. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I'll be going to Tokyo with you guys tomorrow, and obviously joining you guys for Bangkok as well. And
Potentially a little bit further. But
potentially stay on further. I think there's some talks under the wraps.
Your agent's involved. Talks are ongoing.
Yeah, so I can't say anything right now, but discussion will be to a close soon. So.
Fair play. Well, that's an exclusive. So, obviously, from our guys' perspective, we came into Hanoi on Sunday. We left the UK at 11 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Yep.
We arrived in Vietnam at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Needless to say that none of us really had any sleep on the plane, so we've sort of spent the last three days really sort of completely knackered.
Yeah. Not really caught up at any stage.
No.
There's just so much to do. Obviously, because we're only here for a few days, it was like a case of we don't want to necessarily have an early night because we want to go out and see the bars and all that, the stuff that's got to offer, and then we don't want to have a long lie-in because then again you want to get up and do the stuff that we want to do during the day. So I feel we've missed out on that kind of the sleep from the Sunday to Monday, and then just gone straight into the whole thing and not caught up yet. So
that matches the energy of Hanoi as well. There's always stuff going on in a city that doesn't sleep, and I think we had to sort of dive into that and also replicate that too.
Yes, so I mean, my knowledge of Hanoi prior to coming here was pretty limited. What I do know now is it's 8 million people, and they all seem to live on one street. and it's like you've literally got people everywhere you look.
It's busy.
It is incredibly busy. obviously, so when we got here, we got into the airport. It was raining, which was a taste of home before we actually left the airport. Got into the taxi with the the Vietnamese taxi driver who put on his music, which was some sort of Viet EDM.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
And then obviously we got into the city itself of Hanoi, and we sort of went into the hostel. I think that that was an interesting scenario in itself, because we arrived at the hostel at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, knowing that obviously we can't check in then.
Yeah.
But no, like we needed somewhere to leave a suitcase, so there was no chance I was bringing that around all day.
No, so me and you, our hand luggage is around 15 kilograms.
Yes,
it's ridiculous. So we decided to set off and had a walk around Hanoi, and thought we'd go and get ourselves a coffee and sort of relax into local culture.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. If you're in, one of the big things to do in Hanoi and Vietnam is try that egg coffee. So a bit different to a normal coffee in the fact that rather than milk that's in it, it's kind of like whisked egg white. So it's very like creamy, very just like fluffy, isn't it?
It's like a really sweet cream. Is probably the best way I'd describe it. And I mean, so whilst we've been sitting here, we've actually been told that another Vietnamese tradition is egg beer.
Yeah.
We've actually just tried one. It was probably one of the strangest drinks I've had in quite some time. So the beers we're drinking are Hanoi beer and Saigon beer, so they're all local custom. But then when you add an egg white into it,
it's not a normal beer taste. It's very sweet for a beer, isn't it? And it's very
dessert beer almost, something you have after the dinner.
It reminded me of like at Christmas when you get the snowballs.
Yes, yeah, it does. Yeah, I can see that.
That sort of reminded me of that. Apparently that's a summer drink here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But.
So egg coffee, we went to the egg coffee shop, but they're pretty much available everywhere, and that was a way of perking up. I think we left there at 9:30 and we still had another 4 or 5 hours to kill. Remember the guy that was walking around outside the egg coffee shop with his karaoke machine?
Yeah, that was another first sort of, I guess, culture shock almost, seeing sort of just a lot of random stuff on the street. Saw an oven, saw the guy on his karaoke machine, saw someone stack about 300 boxes on the back of their bike.
Yeah. People just seem to take their any old shite and take it for a walk, and it's really sort of weird to see. I mean, the karaoke machine guy, I think he was almost like someone had said to him on Saturday night. It was at a karaoke bar. "You are brilliant, John. You need to go on tour." And he's gone, right, 9 o'clock Monday morning. I'm going on tour.
Best way to do that.
And he's walked around Hanoi, and we were sat having a beer at like 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we saw him from the balcony of the bar we were drinking in, still walking around singing the same tunes. I mean, that was something that will stay with me as well. That was pretty incredible.
He was a good singer, though. To be fair to him, at least you had that. If he'd taken his speaker away and been a terrible singer, then perhaps not quite the right kind of vibe that we were looking for. But he wasn't too bad, so we'll give it to him.
It wasn't quite clear what his intentions were, because he wasn't accepting money.
Yeah, it wasn't busking.
He wasn't asking everyone to join him. He just going on a walk with his karaoke machine.
He's living his best life, absolutely.
Exactly.
I mean, he's clearly unemployed. I can't imagine anyone around.
His day off, actually.
Anyone around London on a Monday morning or Birmingham on a Monday morning going, right, I'm taking the karaoke machine out for a walk. I mean, he'd probably get pelters for it if he started doing that in the UK. So we've gone to the coffee shop. Then we've gone from the coffee shop, had a walk through the park by the lake.
Yep.
Seen about 20 Vietnamese women doing some sort of dancing,
yoga kind of mixed with dance class first thing in the morning, wasn't it? With a bit of Barbra Streisand, wasn't it?
Barbra Streisand. So it was. I mean, I think Sam, you were tempted to join in at one point, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I nearly got egged on to doing it, but I didn't want her to ruin the dance. They had some pretty strict routine going on, so I thought I'd just let the professionals handle it, and I'll just sit and enjoy it.
So our Monday morning was, I mean, it's one of the weirdest Monday mornings for me. It's culture shock coming into sort of this scenario and seeing how they spend their Monday mornings, the capital city of Vietnam. It didn't feel like a Monday morning other than the weather. The weather was rancid, but everything else, it felt like a weekend.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
At the airport, it felt like a Monday morning. I think that was like checking out. Had to obviously just get used to all the customs and the humid heat as well, and that was the most Monday part, and the rush hour as well, getting to the.
Yes, obviously we've done all that sort of stuff, and we've got ourselves into sort of the hostel, and I think at one point I was threatening to go and book a hotel because I was grouchy. I wasn't in a good mood Monday.
Wasn't ready for a hostel experience.
I was functioning on 2 hours sleep in 2 days, and I was like, you know what, I don't need this.
Yeah.
And then when you dropped the bombshell that the hostel cost about £6.
Yes. Great price.
Which I mean, great price. But what I found out later was that a 4-star hotel was £25. I quickly sort of reevaluated, and I was very tempted at that point. By the way, if we'd have walked into that hostel room and it was people that just did not, like, you know, I didn't get on with, clashed with immediately, I was gone, mate. I was gone. But as it was,
all part of the backpacking, travelling experiences. Yeah, hostels, meeting people.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, that's another culture shock, because that's not something I've ever done. But when we actually sort of went into that hostel room, we were met by a very sort of standard homely feeling with 3 English people.
Yeah, it was. It was.
It was a little bit strange to sort of go into a room and everyone was literally from within an hour of where you
never
live.
know with a hostel, like, where you could, like, what could be in there in terms of people you meet, the different, where they could be from and everything like that. So you're thinking could be anything. And to the first hostel experience, straight in 3 English people was the
it set the benchmark.
It was, and it was easy win a little bit. So you can there's a start, and then potentially, obviously, we've got a lot more to come. So we'll see on, obviously, keep everyone updated about the kind of situations we get into on those ones as well.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, sort of, I've stayed in dormitories when I've refereed at USA Cup. Obviously, we as part of this trip, we're leading up to USA Cup in Minnesota in July. So I'm used to that sort of environment, but it has felt like USA Cup. You know, it's felt that sort of feeling like everyone gets on with each other in the room. It's been good. I've really enjoyed that. So. Yeah, we then, after we had a few hours kit and got ourselves out and about, we went to find some money, because in Vietnam it seems that there's about 3 places with a card reader, and everywhere else hasn't. So we were looking, I think, for some lunch we were after, so we were going to go and buy a banh mi.
So again, getting in the local culture, trying some local foods.
Banh mi, which is Vietnamese for cake.
Yes, but it wasn't cake. Not a cake.
It was more of it's like a baguette with chicken and whatever. It was absolutely outstanding. But we needed to go and get some cash, so we've walked around half of Hanoi to find some cash. It was 33 degrees outside. 12 kilos on my back, 15 kilos on your back, like some sort of army expedition. And we found a cash point, and someone had nicked it.
It was just the one we wanted to find. We found it on Google. Well, we had it on Google Maps. Went to it. Okay, now we're going right. We're on the street where it should be. It should be here. We're walking up and down, going. You literally can't see it on this street. So we stopped at one point and asked this group of 3 girls, and we said, "Do you know where cash point is?" Yeah. Someone says, "Do you mean that one there?" And then we turn around, and there's the sign for the cash point right behind us. So we go, "Oh, thank you very much." Turn around, go to it.
It wasn't there.
Just a hole in the wall. There's no actual cash point.
Literally a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Yes, so we've then found another one, which was probably about 3 or 4 streets over. Gone back to the banh mi shop, had an unbelievable lunch, which cost about £1.30, including a drink.
Crazy.
So that was pretty incredible. Going back to the cash point itself, I don't know what came over me, but you two went and got $500,000 dong out. But I was like, nah. There's very few opportunities in your life to live like a millionaire and withdraw $1 million. So for that short moment in time, I was absolutely taking it as a millionaire, and I withdrew $1 million dong, which was £1 million, but it's
not quite the exchange rate.
No, not quite what I was looking for. But yes, so we went and had the banh mi, which was brilliant, and then we sort of settled into the culture of the nightlife in Hanoi, which took us to Beer Street.
Yeah.
Beer Street is probably about 1 kilometre long, and it's literally just wall-to-wall bars. But the problem with Beer Street is that it's that narrow. It's like the width of this table.
Yeah.
So you're walking, literally you're dancing with everyone that you walk past. and I couldn't quite get my head around it when people stopped to take photos or videos inside of a bar.
Well, not only are you going, you're going up and down as well. So this is width of this table. You're going up one side, someone's coming in this way. Every 5-10 minutes, there'll be someone coming through with a big like pram or trolley full of fruit,
yeah,
trying to sell you fresh fruit, and you're going like, this is like not the area, not the space to do that kind of thing. And it wasn't even like you saw loads of people buying it. It was just going like, everyone's going out having a beer. Now's not the time that you're going, you know what, I fancy a bit of pineapple or something like that.
It was, I mean, that was the thing, it was pre-cut up pineapple, bit of mango, some bananas, and you're just like, who is like on a night out drinking and thinking, you know what, I'd love some fresh fruit. It's, I don't know.
We haven't actually seen anyone, you know, take some fruit from them yet.
No one seems to eat it.
No.
But
yeah, it's in high demand apparently. Like,
but then again, they might just be taking it for a walk, like Karaoke Man. They're not looking for money; they're just taking it on a walk around the city.
Off their produce.
So Monday night, obviously we've had a few beers and had a bit of a sort of good night out and a few met a few people on that trip. I think we ended up at the nightclub on the other side of Hanoi with the people from the hostel, and it would appear that the hostel has been paid to take people there because there were 15 people on the tour, this walking tour of the pubs,
and there was
15 people in that nightclub. So it was pretty tragic. I mean, it was basically like music from a nightclub in the UK, what I'd imagine about 20 years ago.
Yeah, there was not much new current music going on.
I didn't disagree. I think the music was actually pretty good. I mean, you guys don't really go into your rave scene that much, but I think a lot of the music in Hanoi and Vietnam especially is just house, very sort of electro. But I thought the tunes that night were actually pretty good.
You'd obviously had a few more drinks.
You had a few more beers.
Yeah, there was a lot of free shots going around.
The jet lag was affecting you in different ways.
It was definitely a part of it, but I enjoyed that night. I think that was
it was good.
That was probably the latest night we stayed up actually as well. That was the first night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the first night.
And I think that's actually what ruined us for the rest of the trip.
Yeah, I'd agree. So Tuesday, we've gone and done the walking tour of Hanoi with the hostel, which was put on by a local. Just a volunteer. She literally turns up 10 o'clock every day, tells everyone that they need to wear long sleeve clothing so that they don't get falling foul of the temple. And we've gone on a walk in 35-degree heat. Wasn't prepared for that. Didn't take a cap out
for a good 3-4 hours.
Yeah, three or 4 hours. We've gone to the temple on the lake, which was slightly questionable as to what was in there, and I don't want to be disrespectful to the culture of Vietnam or Vietnamese people, but we saw a turtle.
Not your usual turtle, though.
Not your usual turtle, no. It was a turtle that was preserved. It died in 2016, but what really surprised me was in a glass display cabinet next to it was what can only be described as his cock and balls.
Literally what it was,
Yeah.
They took that part off, obviously when he died and got the taxidermy and whatever. They got the full turtle there, like 2 metre long turtle. And then just on the sides,
and it was like, I mean,
it was an impressive sight, to say the least.
I mean, the worst of it was later on in the same tour, we went to see one of the former presidents of Vietnam, and we were told about Ho Chi Minh and how his body is around 3.5 kilometres away from here, where we are now. And someone next to me just went, I wonder if his cock is in the display cabinet next to it. And I was just like, that's gone, absolutely gone.
The answer is yes.
But yes, so that was an interesting tour. And anything from the tour that sort of you can pick out as a highlight?
I think that in terms of doing the tour, it's very much worthwhile in terms of going out, seeing us. Like, it's a good way to see everything. Like, we can Google and see what things to do, but in terms of getting that local guide in to walk us through, we ticked off so much of the stuff we want to see in the place over the few hours that we did it for. So it's definitely worth the time doing and finding out a lot of information.
It was really good. I mean, the other thing is what we have learned is the temples or pagodas in Vietnam are where people go to pray, and this country is more spiritual than religious. It's very much a spirituality. I think it's 85% spirituality, 8% Christian. Something no,
I can't remember.
It was I can't remember the numbers. Buddhism was there as well. Either way, the main sort of religion is more of a spirituality in this country. And in the pagodas, they pray to what they want in the future. So obviously,
is that what they value
yeah,
most?
So we walked into a temple and we saw like a load of crackers and some beers.
There was like fruit smoothies.
And it was slightly surreal.
It looked like one of the pop-up shops we've actually seen in that corner.
Yeah, it really did. And I mean, one thing that sort of I found quite humorous was when we were told that on Wednesdays they burn money, but it's not real money, it's symbolic money. But the guy who was praying when we were there was actually handing over symbolic money to the temple, and we paid to get in. But we paid real money.
Yeah, they don't accept.
They didn't accept symbolic money, but they will allow you to pray with it. So we did that, and then after the walking tour of Hanoi, we went into the Note coffee shop, which has got just notes from around the world. People have gone there. I think it's a TikTok phenomenon. I mean, George loves his TikTok, but it was a bit of a strange sort of place to go and see notes from all over the world. I mean,
weirdly enough, we didn't get to put any notes on.
No, we didn't get any notes to put on there.
I don't know where they were, unless you got it's like a secret menu item we've got. Although it's not really that much of a secret.
I think, the only thing I'd have written on that note is follow a couple of Pints podcast. So, and you would have written the same, I'm sure, because we have to be on brand whilst we're away.
Well, maybe.
Sam's got. Sam, what would you have written then? What would you have written?
I think I was going to put a movie quote in there.
I think I saw a few of them.
No wonder they didn't want to waste their pen.
I know, yeah. It would have been
a
waste of ink actually if it did come to that. But no, I mean most of the notes we saw there were actually quite recent, just mainly saying a lot of silly things. Just I think one of them had Aguero with four
post-its
across. Aguero.
And the other one was up the Saudi mags.
Yeah, saw that one in there as well.
Visit Devon have been in there.
For a few football references in there.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. I think it was a Bolton Wanderers one as well, which was slightly surreal to see. Again, so Tuesday from there we've gone to Hanoi prison, which is How Low prison, or as the Americans call it, Hilton Hanoi.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is when the Vietnamese War, I don't know why we've turned into a history podcast, but when the Vietnamese War was on, the American fighter pilots that got detained in Vietnam ended up there, and that was the Hilton, as they called it. That was an interesting experience, wasn't it? So that was built by the French originally.
Yes.
And then it became sort of owned by the Vietnamese state. The conditions, like even now, and this is March, where it's like not the height of summer, it was absolutely roasted with air conditioning, with fans. I can't even begin to imagine what prisoners would have done in the sort of the summers when it was open as a prison.
Yeah, it's pretty wide opening, I think. Before, like you said at the start, you had no real prior knowledge of Hanoi and obviously like the history behind it. But I think apart from the Vietnam War, I think the main thing that stuck out is just obviously the French occupation altogether. Yep. Like we went to the French Quarter.
Well, you are French, aren't you?
Well, apparently so. According to Nick, I am French, although I'd say I am half French and mainly 75% English.
I mean, when you turned up with the tricolour, telling everyone you were taking over again, mate, you were laughed out of town.
Yeah, it's always when she did say who is French, and Nick just says this guy here, and everyone just sort of went,
oh no,
it's like not this guy. But yeah, I think the main thing is that the French actually did have a massive cultural impact on the city as a whole. I think. Obviously, with the French Quarter being the more westernised version of the city, we're staying in the old quarter, which is very old school Hanoi. I think all the roads are narrow.
It feels very Southeast Asian.
Yeah,
it's very much everyone's on top of each other. It's a real culture.
Exactly. It's bustling, and then. You go to the French Quarter and the city, the roads are wide. You see Gucci, Hublot there.
It's like your relatives turned up and went, "We are not having that."
Not direct. That doesn't necessarily mean it's direct relatives.
No, not direct.
Well,
maybe not
actually,
direct, but maybe
my
direct.
My grandfather was here,
as we found out later.
Actually, to do.
So he might have gone. Actually, we're not having any of that. We're going to flatten it all, and we're going to build a massive palace, and we're going to make the roads about 3 or 4 times wider than what they are. It is like I think George said it. It's like walking through a European city.
Yeah, it was when it got to there.
Part of town. The Hilton Hanoi. I mean, to be fair, I learned more about the Vietnam War as well with the US from that prison than I probably did sort of coming into it. It was like a lot of stuff about that.
Wasn't a lot of information, a lot of reading. I think we were in the mindset that day. We were sort of kind of tired from the night before. We weren't really in the mood for a massive tour, but we did spend a good amount of time in there to learn about the history. And
it's if anyone's ever in Hanoi, it's well worth a visit.
I think it's when you think about the price as well. If you put a value on everything in Vietnam as a whole, I think most of the time you're actually getting your value for money. I think almost 80 or 90% of
it. But like I say, £30 makes you a millionaire. So and that's 1 million dong. Things don't invariably cost much more than $1 million dong. I don't think we've had anything that's added. Maybe when we went to a restaurant the other day as well, that was like 38 quid between us all. But yeah, so it's pretty cheap as a city to come to and be in. Yesterday we went to Halong Bay.
Yep.
Probably one of the most, if not the most, incredible place I've ever been to from a scenery perspective.
Yeah. The scenery, incredible. It was very much worth doing in terms of. It was a day trip because obviously it takes 2 hours to get there, 2 hours or 2.5 hours to get there, and then 2.5 hours back. So it was a big thing to do in a day trip. But we went over there, got on a cruise, and went out. We had another nice seafood lunch, a lot of local food in that, which was very good. And then went out and just to see all the islands, kind of limestone islands in the middle of the ocean, and it's literally like huge, massive islands, like hundreds of feet tall. It was amazing.
I think James Bond. I mean, so on the bus there, we had a tour guide who thought he was the Vietnamese Peter Kay and decided to stand up in the middle of Hanoi as we got on the bus, and then he must have been standing still about 45 minutes later, still talking into the mic with an echo. I thought he was going to start singing at one point.
Some of his jokes were pretty good.
Some of his jokes,
he kept referring to the bus driver as Mr. Ladyboy, I think.
And the reason was because he didn't have a missus. Which I think, I mean, he's clearly had a sense of humour, but his other jokes didn't land. Yeah. So it's,
especially since we were actually the only English people on that bus, so I feel like a lot of the jokes he said,
English culture,
we found it, obviously some of it funny, but I think for maybe the Koreans, they probably didn't understand a word he said at all.
Yeah, it was a little bit dry, wasn't it?
Very flat landing.
So I mean, but again, he was very interesting, but as we've sort of gone to Halong Bay, he's sort of explained a few things on the way. And yeah, a very sort of. It's interesting how much people repeat themselves, particularly when it comes to sort of tour guides. We've had a couple of tours, and literally you hear the same bit of information regurgitated in 6 different ways. Which was, I don't know, maybe I just sort of no one listens.
You pick up on it, you pick up on it.
And yes, so that was the thing. We found out that Halong Bay was a filming location for James Bond because the tour guide decided to go James Bond, dun 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 dun. You're like, right, yeah, okay, I know what he's on about. But yeah, we've done the kayaking. You guys have done the kayaking. I sat on a boat with a Hungarian, 2 Japanese, and obviously the Vietnamese driver.
The boat driver,
rower.
Rower.
I mean, and to be fair, it was lovely. There was one point where she was rowing along, and she was just singing like Vietnamese songs. And I mean, she stopped halfway because I started recording, and I was like, more. But you guys went out on a kayak. How was that?
Managed to stay dry. That was not totally dry, but we didn't capsize. We didn't capsize, so that was the main thing.
For some reason, George thought the good idea of going in the front, which is normally for the children.
Not necessarily top, but the smaller.
Just so you can get better pictures was a good idea, and almost immediately we nearly capsized. I thought this is going to be an awful ride, but we managed to sort of get a rhythm.
And then ended up being a good little team when we took on some of the others on the
Filipino couple,
some of the others on the cruise. We picked them out, so obviously they were on a kayak as well.
Apart from when you were being pushed along by another boat as well, there was that.
There was a bit of a traffic jam on that part, but one part we were going back. It was the time to go back to the harbour, and they said, right, go on then, we'll race you, and we wiped the floor with them easy. So we had it by the end. We had it down, but. Bit shaky at the start.
I mean the dynamics of any boat, and I'm sure any boat builders that listen would tell you that you put your weight at the back of a boat and everything. I mean every boat you've ever seen will always have less weight at the front, but clearly George was willing to challenge the dynamics of that in Halong Bay.
We made it there and back. We were fine.
From Halong Bay we went into the cave, which was a really interesting cave. It was discovered when a fisherman saw a monkey on the top of the cave, and he thought, oh, there must be life in the cave, there must be something that he's living on, and that cave, by sheer coincidence, became a massive tourist attraction that makes them a lot of money. Yeah. So they've carved it all out. That was like a big walking route, but it was like the tour guide was seeing things that we didn't see and no one else could see, and I think he was just getting a little bit carried away when he was pointing things out.
I think the first couple, you normally see it when you go to the cave tours and stuff like that. They say, if you look closely here, this rock formation, you can see a dragon or a lion or something like that. And you go, you know what, actually I can see that a little bit there. But it was maybe 10, 15, 20 different times during the tour where it said, if you look here, you can see, and then another thing, there was a mushroom, and it just went on and on and on. So some of them, definitely I could see it, but some of them where you're like, you're really stretching here. This is, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's stalagmites and stalactites, and obviously we were sort of looking at them, and it was absolutely stunning. It was incredible to see. Obviously, you've got the sort of the heavenly glow that came through from the sun, and you've also got the sort of formations of certain rocks. I mean, there was one where there was clearly a water fountain that someone had put in, and they were claiming it was natural springs, and you're like, well, unless there's a burst pipe, that isn't what happens. But he was pointing with his laser pen, and he must have been going on for like half an hour. Oh, what's that? Mushrooms. That's a kissing frog. That's a beautiful couple there, and you're like, mate. I mean, the turtle as well, the head of the turtle.
Yeah.
That didn't look like a turtle. Yeah. That didn't look like a turtle.
It did not.
And everyone actually ended up just stroking this rock.
Walking past.
Nothing like a turtle. So
mate, that's how COVID started. That someone touched a rock and said, "Yeah, it's a good look, that is," and everyone touches it. And before you know it, everyone's sort of licking their hands. And
I mean, I didn't do that.
I didn't do that.
Having a sandwich. Before you know it, that's how it spreads.
And then after he licked his hand, he actually did start seeing the flying tortoise.
But to be fair, maybe that's what the tour guide did to start with. That would make more sense.
I mean, yeah, there's conspiracy theory around that.
So we've done the caves, and then we've got back into Hanoi for some dinner last night. We went with the very traditional Asian cuisine that is 4-piece pizza.
Yeah, pizza and pasta.
That was, by the way, it was probably one of the best pizzas I've ever had.
Very good. It was very good.
Took about 20 minutes longer than they said it was going to take, but it was worth the wait.
Yeah. That is really the most interesting part, I think, of this trip is obviously the value money you get for everything I've already said, but the westernised food here
is very good.
Is unreal.
Yeah, it's better than the West.
It's incredible, and obviously you get that value for money as well. I mean, we've already been to a burger place called Chops, which had amazing burgers that you get.
Honestly, one of the best burgers I've ever had on a trip, and one of the best pizzas I've ever had on a trip.
I know, and I think it's just.
If you came here for culture, I'm very, very sorry. This is not the podcast for you.
We did a little bit.
We have dived into the cultures and the food and drink a little bit. To be fair, we had an egg beer, an egg coffee.
I think obviously the main food sort of culture here is a lot of seafood. Obviously you guys aren't really heavily into your seafood. I'm sort of into my seafood. I can enjoy it, I think, but the seafood here is fish sauce.
It's fish sauce. I like the prawns and the squid and the fish and everything like that. It's just fish sauce, and fish sauce is served with everything. So again, spring rolls is served with fish sauce. Yeah. So I was like, I need my sweet chili sauce, something like that.
Burger place,
chips with fish sauce and a burger and chips served with fish sauce. And you're thinking, not quite sure about this one. So
you dip your chips into that fish sauce, beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've gone to pay at the pizza shop, and what I think we worked out is why everyone in Vietnam repeats themselves 4 times, is because that's the only way to get information through from one person to another. So we were waiting.
Translating it on the spot, basically.
Yeah, effectively. So we were waiting for this to pay for the pizzas and whatever. This guy walks out from behind the counter. He took charge of the situation. He was very much, I'm the man for this.
For
about 30 seconds, and he's gone, how do you want to do this? And we're like, well, we'll split it. So George is going to pay cash, we'll pay card. Nice and easy. All 3 of us paying for what we bought, so that's how we
went
do.
over the amount as well, so it's not like a case of oh well, you're not coming. We worked it out. It's all over. It was all good.
He's put it all into his calculator, and then he's decided that this was above his pay grade, and he's done what can only be described as a Boris Johnson impression, and he's tried to hide in the cupboard below the till, and then. After that, he's got back up, gone and had a chat with someone, and walked into the kitchen. we never saw him again. We literally never saw the bloke again.
Took some money as well, didn't he?
So one of his colleagues comes over and goes, right, okay, what's going on? And I think it took us 3 times, to be fair, just to get for them to understand that we weren't trying to rip them off. We're actually trying to give them a few quid as well.
We got there eventually.
Yeah, a very interesting exchange. But I think that sort of, again, it sums up a lot of the Viet culture. You've got to sort of be very concise with what you want to say.
Pragmatic approach to a lot of things, I think, as well.
Massively. And then today, so we've gone and had a massage. We've had a bit of a chilled out day, really, haven't we?
Needed at some point.
Once again, we've settled into the local culture. We've had some crepes for breakfast, banana and Nutella crepe, or crepe. Sorry, apologies.
Crepe, is the pronunciation.
And we're off to Train Street after this, so there's no doubts we'll probably have some content from there as well. But yeah, I can't tell you how much I've really been surprised by Vietnam. I think this has been incredible as a place. I would absolutely come back here. I think it's been the people are so nice.
They are, yes.
And
actually, talking about the people, one of the best parts about it is a lot of people do speak English that we've come across. Obviously, a lot of the places we're going are kind of are like places that see a lot of tourists. They're restaurants, they're the hostels, hotels, stuff like that. But all of the people that do speak English, their English seems to come from TV shows.
Oh yeah, it does.
So you can hear them speaking English. Then they don't just have like a standard, they don't mix their
English
Vietnamese accent with the English accent. They have
an English accent,
specific English accent. So we hear some guy loved Harry Potter, and we found this out because he sounded just like he was in Harry Potter.
He said Emma Watson was who he learned English
exactly,
off. So he was like, "Hello, how are you today, guys?"
everything was coming, and you go.
And his English was really good.
It was very good.
Incredible.
I said, "Are you actually just from the UK?" He said, "No, just learnt this all from Emma Watson."
And then we heard another one that was
the guy at the hotel. Sorry, the hostel is all right, mate. How's it going? Are you guys all right? So we need we've had to sort out some documentation to get into Japan, and when we explained that to the hostel, he wandered over and he was like, "All right, lads, how's it going? Bloody Japanese! I can't believe they're doing that to you." And I was like, "What?"
Jesus Christ,
like talking to Del Boy. He was like sort of East End market trainer. And then you've got the sort of ones that are American as well, the American English.
Depending on what TV shows.
Australian influence as well.
It's been so strange, but as I say, the people have been incredible. I mean, the only other thing to mention from my perspective, really, as sort of Vietnam, is the soundtrack of Vietnam, and also the driving. The soundtrack of Vietnam is very much car horns and mopeds, and that is the noise. It's like going to a go-kart track all the time and hearing a load of horns. They don't seem to have indicators in Vietnam. They have the car horn, and that is their way of letting people know.
They also seem to have sides of the road either when it gets into the old quarter.
We've been here 5 days, and I couldn't tell you which side of the road they actually drive on.
It's just they go this way, and then some others go this way. But if people are crossing, then you can just cross over either side. And
you can cross the road at any point, and as long as you sort of have a look and make sure that everything's okay, they will go around you. But it's quite daunting because you think you're going to get hit by a car. It's ultimately lawless.
And even
driving-wise,
it extends into one-way streets. Don't seem to be one-way streets here.
No.
Well, one-way forwards. So obviously we were getting a taxi yesterday to dinner, and you saw on the map the guy missed a turning, and we thought, he's missed. I could see it on the app. I was saying, okay, he's missed a turning, but I'm sure it will work.
Well, I looked at you and I was like, what's he going to do here?
And so the next few streets were all one-way streets. So you think, we've missed that. He's got to go all the way around the block to come back again. But no, what he does is he goes past the road we need to go, and then reverses back the whole way down the road, which was maybe like 300, 400, 500 meters. He's gone all the way down the road just in reverse, and then we start chuckling, knowing what he's doing, and he gives us a little head tap and goes, "You got to think,
he's played the system." He's turned to us and gone, "I know what I'm doing here, lads." I mean, I thought that was. I mean, to be fair, we didn't let him turn onto the next street.
We thought, we're close enough now that we can get out here and walk the rest.
I mean, you saved us a 10-minute walk, so it's just. As I say, I understand when Top Gear came here, they did it on mopeds, and I said to you earlier today, imagine being the person that goes to the airport here and gets a car rental. Like the car would be in bits. I mean, the driver of the coach yesterday, Mr. Ladyboy, he was driving in the fast lane all the way to Halong Bay, 2.5 hour journey, literally driving in the outside lane. Everything was going past us. Yeah. It's like no one's actually learnt to drive properly. Obviously, cars haven't been in that long, but it felt so weird.
I think it's quite good though if you think how funny it is if you compare us to the start of the trip when we first got here.
We'd not been
how we didn't understand a thing that was going on. It's just obviously so much happening at once. Or these mopeds going past. We'd be going to zebra crossings and waiting for people to stop. But that is not how it works at all. And
going to red lights as well.
Yeah, it's like, even on the red lights they're going ahead. So like, there's no rules whatsoever. And then compared to now, I think we've got the hang of it. Our tour guide, who was making the funny jokes earlier, his way of getting past it, a bit of dubious and advice was just to close your eyes and keep walking, which I don't ever advise anyone to do. Yeah,
it's not in the highway code, is it?
But what he's actually saying is, in principle, just walk where you're going and you'll actually be fine. Yeah, and I think now we've got the hang of that. I think we're sort of. I mean, it begs an interesting question of, obviously you have travellers stay here for months, 2 months. But would you guys stay here for longer than a month? Or
I think Vietnam, potentially yes. I think well, obviously this was our first taste, and 100% I've enjoyed it so much, and it's a great place to come. I think being in the centre of the old quarter in Hanoi for a certain amount of time, maybe a week, 2 weeks, is then a good amount because it is so on top of you. It's very
in your face.
Yeah, it is. It's not. There's no chill really here, is there?
No, it's very much full on all the time. Everything's going. I mean,
never sleeps.
I mean, you've got that thick cloud of smog that sits above the city as well. Constantly.
Not seeing any blue skies.
No, we haven't seen much blue sky, but it's an incredible place. And for me, I think I would, as George said, I'd love to explore Vietnam because of obviously there's so much gone on with this country over the last sort of 50, 60 years. I mean, it's an incredible place. I'm blown away by the beauty of the place, by the nicety of the people. That they've been fantastic, and yeah, I've really enjoyed sort of being here. And on that as well, I mean, I've got nothing else to say about Vietnam other than if you get the chance, come here because it's absolutely worth a visit. We'd like to thank the Silk Path Hotel for their hospitality here at the Piano Bar on the first floor of their hotel. I mean, what a place, what people.
And it was actually interesting. I think we asked 1 or 2 other hotels if we could do the podcast, and they were all open to us doing it.
Yeah, they were.
Despite us not even staying at that hotel, and that goes back to the Vietnamese people, how nice they are.
It's just been fantastic. Everyone's been so hospitable and welcoming towards us. But again, thanks to the guys here at the Silk Path Hotel, and hopefully maybe one day we'll come back and stay here. As always, make sure you are subscribed to our channels on YouTube and Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We are pretty much there. Like and follow us, and there's plenty more to come on this trip.
Perfect. Thank you very much.